And now you want to meet.
Right.
Yes,
good morning
please.
once again.
Morning.
I take this opportunity to welcome our guests tonight. This morning. Yeah, morning once again.
Morning.
Take this opportunity to welcome our guests.
Good morning.
This morning, sorry.
Morning.
Right. Okay, we are ready to start our interview this morning. Our guest need no introduction, but for those who do not know, Professor ABC Nwosu was the Minister of Health for a very long time and Commissioner for Health in my state, Anambra State, for a long time as well. I will not do much of his introduction, but Prof, good morning. You are welcome to our program this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I'll allow you please to introduce yourself to our guests this morning by yourself, if you don't mind, sir.
Yes, I am from Anambra State. I'm actually from Nnewi. I usually say the town, Nnewi in Anambra State. I went to secondary school in the youngest government college then, and then from there I went to the University of Ibadan. And then was chased back because of the civil crisis in 1966, and graduated at University of Nigeria and was a Commonwealth scholar and studied at Imperial College, where I got my PhD and DSc. And then started teaching at the University of Nigeria, moved on when Professor Kenneth Dike invited me. And I was professor and dean of his faculty, ended up at postgraduate school, and was member of Senate and a member of Governing Council. So, and left to contest governorship of Anambra State after being commissioner for 4 different governors, Metro Merua, Konobi, Abatu Dieze and Joabulu. And I was actually pioneer commissioner for health for the new Anambra State. So when I contested for governorship and won, and it was reversed 3 weeks to the election, I said I didn't want to change the party. And so I became political advisor to the president, and from there to Minister of Health for the country, and now I am a member of Board of Trustees of the PDP.
We thank you very much, Prof, for this brief introduction. Now, my first question is this: you were there in the beginning in 1960, and I also understand you actually took part in the Nigerian Civil War. Are you minded to tell our audience? Are you minded to tell our audience in what capacity what's your experience during the Nigerian Civil War in the 1960s?
I said 1960. I was a senior boy in Government College at Igbo, and I was there when the Nigerian flag was hoisted up and the Union Jack. So I moved from God Save Our Queen to Nigeria. We held it. And then we went to University of Ibadan. As soon as the crisis came, I was one of those very active in the Students' Union of Biafra then, when we seceded. And any young man like me, if you didn't join the army, you were not really a young man. So I joined the army quite early, and were the people defending from St. Philip's to give it to the corridor. And we were there. We didn't even know the war had ended because we were not routed in the place. We just found that the war had ended and packed our things and went. So I got wounded. I've been carrying 1.5 lungs since 1969, the Operation Do or Die. So any man, any young man who was a young man, no 20-something young man like me, an undergraduate, did not join the army. It was unheard of. So Biafra was a collective project. Anybody who's giving this stupid narrative that Ojukwu came and deceived people who were not ready, and they went and embarked on a suicide mission. I mean, it's stupid. If Ojukwu did not succeed and declare Biafra, we would have gotten rid of him and declared Biafra. We reached a stage, I don't know if the others will understand, but it's best said in Igbo. The stage Biafra, Eastern Nigeria was in 1967 is Ejindu Emegene. If we didn't fight Ejindu Emegene, what are you doing with life when somebody comes and violates your wife in your presence and kills your father in your presence, and you are still trying to be alive? Alive for what? You fight the person, whether you have aeroplanes, you don't have aeroplanes, you have machine guns, you don't have. You fight the person, and that was what we did. And none of us ever regrets that we fought. And we are gratified that all those who fought us are saying that if they were in the position where Ojukwu found himself in 1967, that they would have done exactly the same thing as they did. And that's why you find that no matter what anybody says about Ojukwu, none of them is going to get the burial Ojukwu got. None of them is going to get the reception Ojukwu got when he was granted pardon and he came back. The entire Igbo people emptied themselves when he came back as Onyeije no. And the entire Igbo, and incidentally, I was the secretary of the organizing committee of his burial, were there and mourned him fully. So it was a collective effort. So if you want to know, of course, I wasn't rare in the rear. I was in the trenches. I was in the trenches. In actual fact, we could have been killed on about January 16 when the war had actually ended, because we didn't know the war had ended.
Okay, Prof, we thank you for this a little narration you've just given. I also understand that even after the Civil War and when Ojukwu went to exile and then he came back from exile, you eventually grew close to him. You eventually became very close and became friends.
I didn't grow close to him. We have a blood relationship as far back as 1959 in secondary school. I was spending holiday in his father's house at Alexander Avenue by 13 Hotspot. So we are I'm from Newe, he's from Newe, we are in-laws, we are tied in more ways than one. And not only that, we liked ourselves very much. So it wasn't when the war ended. I knew him before the war ended. Before the war started, I knew him during the war. I knew him after the war. And we were close till the end. And when he died, the organization of the book that was giving him problem, his account and all that, I've already said it, he handed the thing over to me. And we have just framed the book. And we will get the book out. The book will be out in the next 1 or 2 years. The book, there's so much to investigate in the book. But as for the questions to be asked, they've been framed. The investigations to be made, they've been made. The persons to be contacted, who were the commanders, have been contacted. The people who have never given their own accounts, who were central to the coup, have been contacted. And the kind of questions that we are asking is, was it really an Igbo coup? Was Ironsi involved? How many people have seen the handover note or have read Dr. Nwaforizu's blow-by-blow account of how power was given to Ironsi? How many people have seen it? Nwaforizu has a blow-by-blow account in his own writing, of how they called him. Ironsi came with Galadima and Sokoto to see him. And the first thing he did, he eventually, when he went to appoint a prime minister, as soon as he left, he called his attorney general, Dr. Taslim Olawale Elias. And the account of the handover was drafted by Dr. Taslim Olawale Elias. Because Nwaforizu said, what is his, asked Dr. Elias, his attorney general, what his constitutional position was. And I have, incidentally, Nwaforizu is my uncle. So I have the photograph, not Googled, photograph, the actual photograph of where he was sworn in by Adetokunbo Ademola, where he had the service chiefs beside him as a legendary. So he was advised, you are de facto de jure, he handed over to you, you have been sworn in. So, but all these will come in the book, so that no judgments, presenting the facts. Was it really an Igbo coup? And when people see that that coup was conceptualized by no other than Efajuna, it was not Nzobo that conceptualized the coup. It was Efajuna, which is Padiman, his friend Ademoiga. They are at the University of Ibadan. They were graduates. It was when they started looking for collaborators that they got, of course, Chris Anoforo, who went to St. John's, Kaduna, and Chris Anoforo got to Nzogu, his friend at St. John's, Kaduna. And then if you want to know, Chukwumerije was actually involved, but he didn't finally join the army after being selected to join the army. He went for the interview same day with Ademoiga, but people don't read. Ademoiga put it clearly in his book, Why We Struck. It's not any information that we had to manufacture. So you look at the other person, Humphrey Chukwuka, you now have the 5 majors. Bambulie, who wrote the Nigeria's 5 majors, was not a major. He was not a captain. He was a captain. He only assisted. He only assisted Team Nzogu and Team Onwatuegu. But if you look at the main actions in the north, then it was Nzogu and Team Onwatuegu. So all these we are working on, they will come out. The July 29 will come out. Why May 29 program accord will come out, and all that. And facts or answered questions for and against. It's going to be a voluminous book. I was fortunate when Awolowo came to see Ojukwu on if the East secedes, the West will secede. I was outside as director of strategy and mobilization for Biafra Students Union with the president of Students Union, the late Professor Emeka Nejere, who were in the anteroom. They were in. Unfortunately for them, I have a verbatim report of the two-day meeting on the 6th and 7th, which were Saturday and Sunday. Awolowo came in with somebody who was teaching at the University of Nigeria and was well known to you, Professor J.I.G. Onya and Jonathan Maria. So we have accounts. That's why everybody has been suppressing that we don't want to have the history. And that was why I had to travel to Rhode Island. Of course, it wasn't my first. And I'm one of the few that have the autographed copies from Chinua Achebe himself of There Was a Country. And that's why I rose in his defense when he was attacked. He gave me the copies, the autographed copies to give to the other people. So it is a burden we carry. Ojukwu carried the burden to the grave. Many of us, is now left to us. And the issue is that we are trying to get it now, we've got it. That verbatim report of the Ojukwu Awolowo meeting, we have it. We will publish it in full. Nobody has ever published the Fajona manuscript. You see excerpts in Obasanjo's book, Nzogu. Let people go and read that book again. And then one book that people ignore, but an excellent book called In Biafra, Africa Died. It has also excerpts from that book called Indictment. So let me not go and dwell on the book. So you now know that we will, but the most important chapter for us is being titled A for Auschwitz, B for Biafra. When is genocide genocide? You know, and you can see Asaba is still in tears. Let me not mention the others. So it is all right for people to say, let sleeping dogs lie. Professor BC wants to keep quiet, it will reopen old wounds. It's easy for somebody who killed my uncle, who was paying my school fees, to forget and say, I don't want to hear. It's not that easy for me, whose education was truncated because my uncle was killed, his house appropriated, his property appropriated. It's not easy to tell me, don't talk about it. I mean, where I come from, you can't slap a child and ask that child not to cry. The burden of what we know is too much on us. We are not bitter. We are not unforgiving. But we don't want to forget the burden of why a federal government scholar like me transferred from University of Ibadan in 1966 to University of Nigeria and waited 3 years while my mates graduated in 1968. I had to graduate. I wasn't even allowed to graduate in 1970. I graduated in 1971. So it's not easy for me not to expel bad breath. So it's bad breath. We're only trying to expel bad breath, but I've dwelled too much on it so far. When the book comes out, people will judge it. But the book is not by me only. The book is by me. The three people asked to produce the book by Ojukwu were Nwosu, Clement Ebri, and Professor S.J. Kuku.
Prof, thank you very much. This, for me personally, what you have just said evokes some feelings. A lot of Nigerians are so ignorant of our past. And so we would like to hear more on what our topic of the day, because it will help us to situate things in their proper perspective. So there is question, something you mentioned that touched me, that you were actually staying at the home of Sir Louis Odumegwu. So I will first of all ask that question before I move on to some other issues I would like clarified. What type of man is this? To us, he is a legend. So what type of man is this Sir Louis Odumegwu, please? Prof, I don't know whether you had my question.
No, I didn't. You were breaking.
Okay, my question is, before we move on to some of very, very vital issues you have just raised, permit me to first ask, because you said you regularly stayed in the home of Emeka Ojukwu's father. So what type of man is Sir Louis Odumegwu Ojukwu? Because he has a lot of legends around him. So if you can hear from you who knew him personally, what type of man was he?
Incredible man. Incredible man. Of course, he had an intimidating presence. He was a huge man. He was not a short man at all. He was tall, huge, and he was wealthy beyond description. I know that in the garage we had LA1, which was the Rolls Royce. We had the LC1, which was the Armstrong Sidley limousine. We had LF1, which was the Cadillac limousine. And they had, I can't name, he was the largest shareholder, almost companies you could think of. He divested from Ojukwu Transport, which was at Yaba, behind which you had West African pilots. And we were little boys playing and coming around, but he was wealthy beyond description. And he believed in education. Most people who could study in England, he sent to England. And Emeka was not spoiled at all. Emeka spent a lot of time also in the Nwosu family. Emeka spent a lot of time because the father's elder sister was my grandfather's one of his wives. So he was a great man. There's no way to describe him. In fact, when he wanted LM1 for the 600 Pullman Mercedes when it arrived, we had to go. me, we small boys from secondary school chatting. He had to send a case of champagne to Dutola, who already had the LM1. And the Dutola said, completely gave him the number, LM1. And if you need to see the house, it was a combination of the large, the compound, 17 Alexander, is in acreage, it's not in square meters. And then he had to combine it with 13 Hotspot. So that's why JAMB took it over. And he had not less than 11 houses in Odigui. And you can see the Nnewi building at Apapa. And what he was, and on that, he was a disciplinarian, he was humane. If you did well in school, he appreciated you, he loved education, and he was very nice to all who knew him. But Emeka, his son, was also a tough guy. He grew up in my family. He wasn't a spoiled child at all. So if you thought he was a pushover and wanted to box him or anything, you got worse fed.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, another thing you raised, even though you touched on it a little bit, we will like a little bit clarification. The coup of 1966, you have just said it was conceptualized by Ifajuna. But the general notion is that this is an Igbo coup. If you tell us how many people are actually the ideas behind that coup, how many people and what are their ethnic nationalities?
To say that it's an Igbo coup is a nonsensical narrative. You know, the Igbos have not been very liked in Nigeria. They didn't do the coup before the common view that the Igbos like to dominate. They come into anything, they take over. When did the Igbos start going to school? Wasn't it as a kid? But when they went to school, like J.P. Clark wrote in his book, they crawled out like ants from the forest, excellent poets, and took over education. You had the communities sending their teachers overseas to study law. And some stupid ones they sent to study law, studied English. And when they came back, they weren't appreciated. I'm saying this sarcastically, just pointing out to, if you remember, no longer at ease. Biokonkwo, the brilliant boy, the community Omofia contributed, went and studied English. When they sent him to study law, so that it would be useful for the community in land cases against other communities. The story Achebe was telling there is that communities started competition. How many of your children have you sent on community fund? How many secondary schools did you build as community secondary school? How many hospitals have you built as community? I know that in Nnewi, the post office was largely sort of Mebojuku's influence, but Nnewi contributed. The Nnamdi Azikiwe Teaching Hospital now was Mboli General Hospital built by Nnewi people. Even the teaching hospital, Nnamdi Azikiwe, when it was state government and they had no money, Nnewi people contributed and built. And it became a competition. If you had money, I was fortunate, I was commissioner for health. I know that I gave drawing plan to Ibetu and he built one. I gave drawing plan to Chikasa, he built one. I gave drawing plan to Liskata, he built one. So Igbo people took interest in community. And when they went, they built secondary school in Kano. They built secondary schools where they lived. You see, sometimes success, if generates resentment, like Kissinger in his note wrote, quick and profound, that the Igbos are like Jews of West Africa. They are resented. That resentment was voiced by the leadership in the North. It was clear, but you had law and order. You couldn't just kill people. So the Igbo coup, that narrative is a silly narrative to give an excuse for the mass murder and the expropriation of Igbo properties and looting. I give an analogy. There were two Igbo communities struggling, jealous of each other. The teacher that sent studied law and succeeded, was called to the English bar. The other one didn't succeed, didn't even come back. So the community was jealous of the community that had that, the lawyer. And when the lawyer was going to Onitsha and passed in his hotel record, and the antagonistic community came and collided with the car, with his bicycle, and fell down unconscious. The town people had an excuse. They came out that this lawyer had killed their brother, murdered him, beat him to death, burnt his car. Unfortunately for them, their brother recovered from his consciousness. When he got up, they knew they faced death. So they had to go and kill their brother to have the excuse for killing the lawyer. Doesn't quite go like that, but there had to be an excuse for attacking and dealing with the Igbos who were setting up shop everywhere, buying land and building houses. That's why it's an Igbo group. Otherwise, Ademo Iga wrote his book, Why We Struck. He was a core member of the 5 majors. Why don't people read it? That's one of the first books, actually the first book to come out from the 5 majors. Ben Willier's book, 5 majors, was about 5 majors. He wasn't a major. One of the 5 majors was Adeboye. And he was in Biafra all through. Ifeanyi wrote his own, the indictment. People have seen it. And it was not about Igbo coup. And what were the Igbos trying to do a coup for? Against Azikiwe, their president of Senate Nwosu Riz, who became acting president, chief of army Aguiyi Ironsi, the first Nigerian to be made permanent secretary, FC Nwokedi. What were they doing coup for? Against, to occupy what? The first vice chancellor, the first principal of the college, Kenneth Dike, first vice chancellor, Kenneth Dike, vice chancellor, University of Lagos, Eni Joko. Why did the Igbo need to do a coup? To do what? To dominate who? You see them, revolution, revolution, revolution. Nzogu's speech on behalf of the Supreme Council of the Revolution. They were fed up with the direction the country was going. They were fed up with the corruption that had started here. That is at least all the evidence that we had by those who conceptualized and those who actually carried out the coup. But why didn't you call Oka coup? Gideon Oka, Major Oka? Why isn't it called the TV coup? Why? Why are the others not called Hausa Fulani coup? Why? Or did you hear that there was any Igbo involved in these other coups? Or Yorubas? Do coups follow national federal character? Coups are done by people who they trust. I've told you Anufro, St. John's, Kaduna. I think there's even, but not at the major level. Nzogu, St. John's, Kaduna. Ifeanyi DMGS Onitsha, and University of Ibadan, where he met Ademoyiga. Humphrey Chukwuka, DMGS Onitsha. So you can now see how, when you are ready, you call your paddy man or you are this, and that's how coups are done. So if you had an Igbo inviting another Igbo, how could he trust? Do you know how many people they contacted of other ethnic groups who betrayed them, and so they shifted the dates? They approached some members of other ethnic groups, and those people betrayed them, and they had to shift. So when the full story is told, then you will see. Can you excuse me a moment?
Right, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Can
sir.
you excuse me a moment? Can you excuse me a moment?
Yes, we could, sir. Yes, we could. I have paused the recording, so we are fine. It's been I don't know, this interview was meant to last for only 1 hour. And the question we wanted to ask, this story is, I think there are questions that everybody is asking. So I know you'll pardon me to get this background first, because a nation without history is a nation lost. And even when you have history, and if you have the wrong history, then you'll be on the wrong trajectory. Otumba, you've been raising your hand. Maybe we'll use this a little break to see what you have to say. If you can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you very much, Dan, for having me again. Is it enough? Name of Professor. To resonate, I can from the 6 years difference between us. He has achieved more than I can lay my hand on. Also, growing up in Awolowo, at least I can also remember some stories he's bringing to the table. I can also understand why he's because I think he's back. Let me give him back the way.
Yeah, yes. We thank you very much. Prof, you are welcome back. Let me restart the recording again now, and then so that I've started to record again. Go. Yes. Prof, you are welcome. You were speaking about the. Yes. You are answering the question. Sorry. Whether this yes, you are telling us that it's an Igbo queue or not. Do you want to continue with that train of thoughts, or do you want us to shift to the next question?
I want to every fact we have is that it was not an Igbo coup, and we shall put the facts and let people judge, because it was investigated. It was investigated by the commissioner in charge of special branch of the police, who later became Inspector General of Police for Nigeria, MD Yusuf. And the report was submitted to Gawan as Chief of Army Staff. And Gawan should have submitted it to the Ironsi Supreme Council then, and the matter should have been settled. It was not, it had been investigated. MD Yusuf from Katsina, former Inspector General of.
Sorry, was the result of that investigation, was that made public?
I don't know, but I'm saying it was investigated, it was given to Gawan, but it is now public through the underground media. It's now public through the underground media. We have a copy. We have a copy. And most people have copies of it. And you had people who were involved, who were later absolved, both Igbos, Hausas, everybody.
Okay.
So
okay, we thank you very much. Sorry for this brief interruption. Now, the question I have at this point is this. I have read Shehu Shagari's book, Beckoned to Serve. Shehu Shagari was a minister in the First Republic and was also there when the coup happened. Now, Shehu Shagari was of the view that he met with the Senate president then, Nwosu, who tried to, because they had a relationship, Nwosu was telling him, what has happened is unfortunate. We hope that you will let your people know that we, the Igbo elites, have no hand in this coup. And Shehu Shagari gave the indication that he understood. Now, I also watched an interview by The Boy is Good, Mbazulika Amechi. Very good. Mbazulika Amechi was of the view that if Ojukwu had liaised with them, that they could have liaised with their counterparts in the North to look for a diplomatic solution to the impasse the Nigerians saw themselves at that point. Now, because there is this relationship between the politicians, did Ojukwu make a mistake in not involving the elite politicians from the East to liaise with the elite politicians in the North to find a diplomatic solution to the impasse Nigeria found themselves in, rather than going to war? What do you think, sir?
In my view, the war was unavoidable. The war was unavoidable. The war could not have been avoided. And let me tell you why. When Igbos were killed in May 29, remember that killing was not Igbo soldiers versus Igbo soldiers. It was civilians running their own shops that were killed in May 29. It was said to have been because of the decree declaring unity by Ironsi, which incidentally the same thing we're running. But Peter Nahoro's book, Then Spoke the Thunder, gave a completely different reason. And Peter Nahoro's book is a fact book. And Peter Nahoro is a Shan, it's not Igbo. And his same parents with Tony Nahoro. If you read it, you will find that Ironsi invited him and told him that he had now made up his mind he would release Awolowo and coup on August the 2nd. Clearly written in his book. And he had that. He told him, Ironsi told him they had the mole in the Supreme Council. And Kurubo and Fajui told him who the moles were in that council. And by the way, Awolowo was released on that August 2nd. And remember that the people who did the coup, who were detained, one of their ultimate agenda was free Awolowo from Calabar prison and fly him in and set up a diarchy, whether he desired it or not. The person whose assignment it was to do that is still alive. He was a colonel in Biafra. So when you see Peter Pan, you see that there is an alternative view to May 29 massacres, which the Observer was the first of London to call pogrom. Pogrom is a horrible word in any nation, and that is why they want us to keep quiet. Those who committed pogrom, nobody who commits pogrom is ever proud of committing pogrom. And therefore, that's what happened. We now have an alternative view. The popular view is that it was Unity Decree number 34 of Ironsi that did it. And the purveyors of this nonsense will tell you that it was Ben Wabeze that wrote it for his brother. Decree 34. That's what happened. But we have details of how it was planned. The Oyibo people who were involved, Mr. Richardson, Major Boyle of the Ahmadu Bello Institute for Administration, we have all the details because the people ran back and told their stories and they were deposed. So the issue is we now have story one, but most people don't have story two, even if it is at their beck and call, the book by Peter Pan. Why don't they read the book by Peter Pan? Why tell only one side of the story and not tell the other? And we have a book published, Pogrom, people coming back, people whose tongues were slashed, people whose eyes were gouged out. We have a book published, Pogrom, showing that they were real people and what happened. So the issue is that those who committed pogrom or who commit pogrom and genocide in a country are not proud of it. Those who keep silent, which is the rest of the Nigerians, almost saying to the Igbo, serves you right, cannot be proud of it now and cannot raise their hands and say, we are principled people, we speak for justice. How can they? There's nothing as bad as pogrom and genocide in any, is worse human, even worse than slavery. Somebody was decapitated completely, 6'4", huge man, decapitated, and the body without the head sent to Juku as a present. That's what they don't want us to show the picture. Again, they don't want to. But we, especially people like me, who are bloody Nigerians, we are. Our children are married from all ethnic groups. I have 10 grandchildren. Only 5 are Igbo. Only 5 are Igbo. The others are half Igbo, half Yoruba, half Igbo, half Benin, half Igbo. So I can tell you what we want to do is to remove it and get what Oputa panel tried to achieve. These things were wrong. Let us accept that these things were wrong before you begin to say never again. What is the never again? Never again shall somebody wake up one morning and start to slice the belly of a pregnant woman, of a fellow citizen, and kill the fetus. That is never again, but it has to be said first, so that the person who did it will now feel a pinch that it was bad and appreciate the position of the person he did it to. So that is we have all that. It is not malice. Mandela came out. They did their Truth and Reconciliation in South Africa. It worked. In Biafra, when they did Truth and Reconciliation, one of the majors of the coup, who was actually responsible for the death of one of the senior officers from the North. The wife was in Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Chairman Oputa, we call it Oputa panel here. Secretary, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, from Zangon Kataf, Southern Kaduna, that is now experiencing this. That major told the wife of the senior officer, I'm sorry. I am sorry. And there was 2 of them. The woman said, it's okay. And there was that. When the Asabanda so ordered it, and if he were in a position, he would bravado. It's not what you build a nation on. The America we put often says that all men are created equal. Isn't it so? I had a set of ideas. Around which that's why that someday we will live through the world. Nigeria is not a federation. We have a constitution that says we the people. It's a lie again. And all we're trying to say is, if you want to build a country, don't build a country where there is dominance, where one nation within the nation presumes that is superior to the others. It will not happen.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think your statement now sets the tone for our team today. Now, we are now approaching 2023. There is this argument that in view of the background you have given us, that it is the turn of the Igbos to produce the next president of the country. Then there is also a large section of the population of the Igbos, again, who are saying, well, in as much as we would like to produce the next president, but that will not solve our problem. Why don't we, first of all, restructure the country, take care of this constitution that you say that this constitution is a lie because it is not properly produced. Let there be a sovereign national conference or by whatever name called to produce a new constitution that will produce a different structure for the country, and then let's take it from there. So in your mind now, in harmony with our theme for today, what really should the Igbos who have experienced the history you've just given us the background to, what should they be asking for? Would they be asking for to say it is our turn to produce the next president? Or would they be saying, no, let us restructure the country first to give a fair sense of balance to each section of the country?
Thank you. To me, the two should not be put in one basket at all. They have no relationship. Restructuring is a settled matter. Restructuring was settled in 1994-95. Restructuring was settled at Aburi. And I can tell you that if Aburi hadn't been violated, there would have been no war, in spite of the pogrom and the mass murder of people. There would have been no war. Aburi will stand. If there is no war, if the permanent secretary then thought that they knew better, that didn't so restructuring is a member of the national conference in 2014. And the head of the Igbo Secretariat that serviced the conference in 1994-95. Abacha conference with a lawyer, but when you promise a there is nothing nation can have two sovereignties. So sovereign national conference is not much authorized to produce a constitution. And that constitution was fully produced and signed and delivered by Justice Caribbean White, who was the chairman of the conference. It was at that conference that the Igbo sent their first Elombah. The leader of the conference was the Dr. Alex Ueme. And you know, the chairman of the Igbo delegates was General Nwosu. and his deputy was December.
Prof, I think we're having problems with your network now.
But
hello, Prof. Hello, Prof.
When everybody left him, it is an opportunity to form. That Igbo Secretariat, Chipenodi was there, the professor of political science. And when Ekwueme got up to move route, he got up, they were not going to speak in.
Hello, Prof. Guests, please, let's have patience. Let's allow Prof to sort out network issues, because I think he's making some valiant points now, which we wouldn't like to miss. Right, Prof, we are so sorry. We lost most of the things you said about the 1995 conference. And I think it will be unfair.
Okay, are you here?
Yes, we are hearing you now.
Okay, I'll get back to it. Before 1995 conference, all this cacophony you hear about Igbos wanting to be president, not wanting to be president, not wanting. Let no Igbo man's heart be worried and troubled at all. That's how the Igbos are. There will be those hustling, thinking this is a chance either to make money or to make name. But in 1994-95, there was a 2-day conference called Igbo, for those who remember, where the Igbos had to speak with one voice. I was the chairman of organizing committee of Igbo. Are you hearing?
Yes, we are hearing you now.
Okay. I was chairman of organizing committee of Igbo. It was at that the keynote speaker, Ojukwu, gave his keynote, gave the chairman's remarks, but keynote speaker Lex Ekwueme came there and postulated rotational presidency and 6 geopolitical zones. Brilliant paper. Like an architect and a lawyer, the doctorate degree holder. He had everything well done, and you could see 6 geopolitical zones. Those trying to make it 8, 10, they don't understand. 3 in the north, 3 in the south, parity. 3 to the major ethnic groups, 3 to the minorities. Well thought out. I remember clearly because I was there, Igbo Secretariat. Alex Ekwueme got up to move the motion on rotational presidency. Pandemonium broke, as usual, from the 3 northern zones, and provided Ojukwu with what he looks for. So he marched with his hand behind his back robustly and stood by Ekwueme and said, "You must speak. This is our country. You must speak." The conference. And every Igbo delegate lined up behind Ekwueme. And when they found that the conference was about to break into 2, north and south, they had to. The draft constitution, which by the Abacha had there, and the South. Clear. I have it. It is green by government press. The draft signed by Caribe White. Another problem that rose was derivation. And the South was shocked that they were the people who wanted to recolonize us. That's how 13% came. 10% plus the 3 they had. So restructuring is a settled matter. It has nothing to do with whether the Igbos are president or not. Nigeria will either restructure or there will be no Nigeria. People, when you hold something, you hold because your hand, so that the others won't get it, you are the tallest. You hold it. Someday, your arms will begin to ache. You bring your hand down, and people will take that which you are trying to take away. Restructuring is a settled matter. When people say that they don't understand it, including well-learned people, I say, do you understand reordering? Restructuring is not a technical term. Structuring is not a technical term. So restructuring can be a technical term. It is to change a structure which is not working to one which is working. Let me take a current one. We have a Minister for Humanitarian Affairs. And we also have a Minister for Health and Human Affairs. You know, you say I was Minister for Health. Ministry of Health, there's nothing like it. Ministry of Health and Human Affairs, but we now also have humanitarian. That humanitarian, that single ministry in Abuja is responsible for feeding a school child at home, preparing his food and taking it to his father's house to give him food in Gembu, give him in Akwihed, give him in Burutu, give him from Abuja. If you have to sink borehole in let me find the place in Igbo, in Abakaliki, the same people from Abuja. How inefficient can a system be when you over-centralize everything? That's why you can find that in feeding of school children during lockup or lockdown or lock-in we've spent how many billions feeding children who are at home? Such corruption, massive things that are opaque, that you can't account for, happen only when you have this kind of over-centralized system. So people are saying, why don't you do what the churches do? The bishop is not the person controlling the baptism in small parish. He's not the person who buries any dead person in his diocese. They have a principle they call principle of subsidiarity. That was what Nigeria was founded on. Only a few things, and on derivation, Nigeria's money was how to share it was Riceman Commission, RAISS, Ice Mine Commission, where you derive the mineral from, gets 50%. 50. And then the 30% goes to the federation account, where it gets even some more money. Only 20% goes to federal, because federal government was common services being like armed forces, foreign affairs, monetary policy, immigration, etc. Even this debate on police, I was in the 2014 Constitutional Conference, debate on police. The Native Authority Police began before Nigeria Police. And now everybody says you can't have state police. In which federation don't you have localized police? When I was there, I lost my temper and told our co-chairman in committee number 1, which I insisted on. I didn't want to go to health. I wanted where the problem was, devolution of power. And I told my co-chairman, who was a former Inspector General of Police, I said, the reason why you want it is the Nigeria Police, funded by Nigeria. But 4 of you from Katsina have been Inspectors General of Police, and nobody from Anambra can ever dare be. That's why you want it. Not that it solves a problem. You want a situation where Nigeria funds a situation, and you sit on it. And you are also Director of Administration and Finance. Everywhere you go, Director of Administration and Finance. So how can we be talking of restructuring? Restructuring is a settled matter. If you don't restructure, I'm afraid for the future of the country. Because the human spirit does not accept to be enslaved. You can't have first class and second class citizens in a country. We Caucasians have accepted it. The Soviet Union accepted it. Did Yugoslavia accept it? Did Czechoslovakia accept it? That you can have a nation where one person is dominant over the others. Didn't they break? Did heavens fall? The Czechs and the Slovaks. Yugoslavia, how many came? Not to talk of Russia. Even the Rhodesia, South and the North. Which federation? But Nigerian Federation can work if we start looking at what we like. We like ourselves. I found that out. Send your son to study in England now. You will be lucky. He comes back with a wife from another part of the country. How many people have we sent abroad that came back with northern wives? How many of us are married to northern wives? How many Igbos? We like ourselves. We like the big market. We like the population. We love it when JJ culture plays. We love it when Tijani Babangida does his runs. We love it. In fact, when Amokachi, many people were calling him Amokachi for a TV man. So we love ourselves. but we don't love a Nigeria that works for some people, and we love a Nigeria that works for all the people. So restructuring is a settled matter. Nobody should go into restructuring. Restructuring for me is finished. Finished. If we don't want to do it, someday we will do it by force. Now to the president.
Okay.
Now to the presidency.
Yes.
Now to the presidency. The presidency is the issue. There are so many people. You know, you can liken Igbo people to mad people. And the mad people will tell you that the reason why they don't have any union is that because of this person's madness. It's not so the same as because of the other person's madness. So the Igbos are like mad people. This one will carry his gun on this side. This one will be. But when they comes to become, according to Mbadiwe like Biafra, you will find such a unity of purpose which no other group can generate, which is part of the reason why the others really don't like us. They can tolerate us, but they don't like us. Now, the presidency, why you are hearing so many things is that we are doing our thing now. When the time comes, you'll find that Igbos have authority structures. There are authority structures. You mentioned people like Mbazulika. There are people like Komode Bitukiwo. There are people like Emeka Nyoko. I found that when we went for the 95 conference, at the burial of ZCOB, they formed a committee. That's when I knew that in the absence, that the person who was leading Igbo without making any more noise was Dr. Pius Okibi. He was chairman. Nobody could fly in his face. How do I know? I was the secretary of that committee. How I ended up being that was this Mbakwe. Professor, that's how I ended up being the secretary. And it was 6 months. Representing him was Desam and the Mwanyam, Enugu Sisi Ono and Odemigwe. You see, people, their authority structures, there are things you say in Igbo land now, and I can say, and the Igbo man will say, who said? Odoefu. Who said it? And when you learn, how did the Igbos make up their minds that they would vote for Atiku and never allowed APC an inch? The decision was taken. When it reaches this presidency, you will find the decision will be taken and people will be shortlisted. People will make noise. The arguments now are with this heavy debt that Nigeria is in, with this one-sided government that Nigeria has, which is headed by only one section of country, with the amount of unemployment and problems that have, it is like cleaning a church that is full of feces. And the Igbos are trying to see, why must we be the people cleaning up? Let the people who fill the place with feces, let them go on and on until it is clear. But the argument against that is that the Igbo need to prove to Nigeria that what they have always regarded as the problem is actually the solution. When they brought Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the debt vanished. We moved from 33 billion, I was in government, to 0. Now we have borrowed an unprecedented sum of money. I must say the Igbos coming in again. But the counter which people are holding is, we should prove to Nigerians that we, who they have actually regarded as their problem in Nigeria, that we are the solution. 2, that it is when everybody scores 0 in mathematics that you can come and show that it is possible to get 90% in the same mathematics. If we really believe that we are a can-do people, this is now the time to show it. But in order to show it, we must first of all answer the presidency that we are going for. To what end? For what reason? For what reason are we wanting to be president? 2, who are those who will be? And then we set out the criteria. Or are we going to join in the looting? And many other people have said they will join in the looting. Why must it be only the other people who will loot? When we come, we build, we go, and then they come and loot again. Because the sums being called, being looted, look at the ethnicity of looting and tell me a Igbo man you know who has looted billions of naira, not to talk of dollars. So these arguments are being resolved. When they are being resolved, the underground discussions and consultations with the centers of authority in Igbo land will take place. And when they take place in Igbo land, then the right candidate will be brought in. But I can tell you that all those hustling now so that they can come and dispense favors, oil wells, etc., and be the richest, they will be even richer than Bill Gates and Coach and Jack Ma. That will not be the direction.
We thank you very much, Prof. We can listen to you all day. I think this is an opportunity for, I had wanted my own, I still have more questions, but let me allow our guests here to see if anybody have questions. Please, not much comment because we have already run out of time. This is meant to end 15 minutes ago. So if you have questions, please make it brief and direct to the point without much comments, please. We start with Otumba, who has raised up his hand for a long time. Otumba Olabode, please. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you very much again. And thank you very immensely, Professor Nwosu. Like I said, I see him as a Nigerian. I don't even want to see him as an Igbo. So these are Nigerians that has good things for the country called Nigeria. But unfortunately, because we have always misplaced our peace. We have always wanted to do things based on ethnic, religion lines. That's why we keep having this problem of not finding our way forward. The question I want to ask Prof, yes, when people say when the students are ready, the teacher will emerge. You are saying to me now today that once the other area of things have been put together, a candidate, a fit from Igbo land will come. But don't you think, like you said before, that there's a need for a foundation of where we need to get things properly put in place, founded based on rule of law, arrangement of how things should be properly done. One example like that is the area of restructuring. I still don't have doubt in my mind that if the country is properly restructured, I always look back and make example of California. If California were to even branch out of America tomorrow, California will still remain the 7th largest economy in the whole world. So if the country is properly restructured, and I want to give you the maximum respect for thinking so maturely, so wisely that if the country is properly restructured, there's certain things that you see will not even be attractive. Because once we structure each other, make the presidency look not worth of anything. So do you want to agree with me that proper restructuring is better than presidency for Igbo? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Otumba.
I had said that. I agree completely with you. That's why I said that restructuring is a completely different kettle of fish. It shouldn't be brought at all near presidency. I said restructuring was settled at Aburi, resettled in the 1994-95 conference, resettled in 2014 conference. So for me, restructuring is not under this, I don't have to go to California to agree to restructuring. Take Nigeria by independence. It was working. There was competition. Awolowo had brought in first in Africa. I told you, why did I leave Afido Government College in the East? And the only place I was thinking of was Ibadan, and then the scholarship to Ibadan. Immediately he did it. The next year, for him, it was a matter of life and death. You had the Eastern Nigeria Broadcasting Corporation. And there is not one of us who forgets Okono's club. Incidentally, Okono is still alive. So restructuring is a settled matter. Restructuring is good for the Igbo, is good for the Yoruba, is good for the Shekiri, is good for the Hausa, is good for the Fulani, is good for Nube. We should do restructuring. Presidency, part of it, and I'll summarize it in one sentence, which a young man said. You know, when paternity is in doubt, it is only DNA test that settles it. Many Igbos are feeling that the presidency is like a DNA test for the Igbo in Nigeria, that they are children of December. And I think that is all I want to say.
I will take that. I have had already some sound bites. I'm taking them to them and I'm putting them down. You have just added another one. The presidency is like a DNA test for Ndibo. Very good headline. Let's take another question. Ahibwe, please. Can you unmute yourself? Ahibwe, please. Ahiwe, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Yes. Ahiwe, are you ready to unmute yourself and ask your question? All right. Until Ahiwe is ready, Prof, my next question will be, well, a large section of Igbos led by Mazen Namdekan of IPOB, because our question is actually very strong. Igbo presidency, restructuring, or dismemberment. IPOB are part of those who believe that what the Igbos need now is Biafra.
Can you hear me now, Dan?
How would you answer that? Okay, Ahiba, are you ready to ask your question? Okay, let me keep my hold, and then let's hear from Ahiba. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Dan, for the initiative. Very, very, very commendable. I really like what the Prof has been saying. And then his pan-Nigerian view to solve the Nigeria problems. The only appeal I want to make is that we should not generalize when we say we Nigerians just tolerate the Igbos. It's not all. I'm very, very sympathetic to the Igbo because I'm angry at the injustice done to the Igbo. As far as I'm concerned, I will cast my vote come the next election when it is not the Igbo presidency that we are seeking. If we really want to talk about unity, want to talk about progress, I believe that everybody should queue behind Igbo presidency. That is the message. Everybody, it's not about the Igbos. It's not about, if we really say we want to be one, that we believe in one Nigeria, that should not be the Tinubus raising their hands up. Everybody should be saying the Igbos should go there. The Igbo, if you don't want them to go, then let us not stop them from talking about agitating about Biafra. That's one point. I have issue with, perhaps the Prof can correct my assumption that the reason why we are where we are in Nigeria today is because the Igbos and the Yorubas, they have not been able to agree politically. The history, Nigeria political history have shown it. What can we do to get the Yorubas and the Igbos agree? Because I believe so much that if the Yorubas and the Igbos can agree on the way forward, we can actually rescue this Nigeria from those who are holding us captive from the other side of the country. So what political situation can be applied, can be sought for this disagreement politically between the Yorubas and the Igbos come this next election? That's the question I have for the Prof.
I want to say thank you very much indeed for the sentiments you expressed. There cannot be generalizations. Once you generalize, then re-generalization, there must be exceptions. So I thank you very much for what you have said about the. It's not everybody that resents us. There are people who like us. But having said that, the one with the Yorubas, we thought, we weren't very happy with the Yorubas. 1967. As I say so as a person whose majority of grandchildren are happy who have Yoruba. But we're not very happy with them. For example, as Acheban and I said jokingly before he died, that when we ran from Ibadan, even our girlfriends, even our boyfriends didn't shed tears for us. Only few people like Wole Soyinka was prepared to go to jail for us and Tai Sholari. If we had stood our ground then and said the pogrom is bad, genocide is bad, we will not support this war, or maintain that if the East is made to succeed, the West will succeed, there would have been no Biafra. There would have been a better Nigeria. But I can tell you that we lost the war, not from our northern end, but from our southern end. I was a soldier. I was an officer. I was in charge of my unit. If we had the bulk of the thing happened, this happened with Port Harcourt, with the blockade, with Bonnet and everything, and it was largely mainly Brigadier Benjamin. Eventually, the Biafra collapsed from that front. It didn't collapse from the northern end of Mohammed Shua. The many times Moritala Mohammed tried to get into Biafra, he was humiliated. So that is gone. But it means that right now, you can see that Ohaneze is talking the same thing as Afenifere. You can see that Nwosu is comfortable with Adebanjo. And some of us are at the background and making sure that it remains so. At the national conference, Adebanjo was a serious ally. He sat next to Ike Dife and sat next to me and Ankil Briggs. So he was there. We are hoping that this new matter will blossom, and we have no reason for it not to blossom, but it has to be nurtured. The reason why I'm saying all this is that we must, I can't say it in Igbo. What we say in Igbo is, if you know what will spoil something, please don't go there. Don't go there. There are some who are known by the nickname, anything will go spoil matter, just go away from it. So that we will know that the Yorubas have no-go areas. The Igbos have no-go areas. We concentrate. And the entire viewpoint of the Igbo man is Nigeria. The Igbo man has forgiven whatever has happened, and it is the killings. The Igbo man is comfortable with Benue, is comfortable with Plateau, is comfortable. All we need to do is to set up common ideals, common goals, which we are going to pursue. And then we build a nation. But it is not when it is my turn to be chief of army staff, you give it to somebody because you don't trust me. This is what spoils matters. But I can tell you that the current Igbo are what they are thinking and what they are doing is in complete tandem with the Yoruba.
We thank you very much, Prof. Let's quickly, Julius Ebodage, please. Are you able to unmute yourself and ask your question quickly?
Thank you very much, sir. I'm glad to be here. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you, Julius.
Yes, please.
Okay, Prof, thank you very much. Now, my
Yes.
question is, what visibly is the bridge that Indigo is building to connect the old Midwest and the West to be able to come up with a platform? I think there's an interruption there. To be able to sell the Igbo candidate to the Northerners. I'm saying this because the mistrust, as far as I can see, is not from the Southern corridor, but it's from the Northern corridor. So what I'm saying now is that what bridge is the Indigo selling connect the South and the South?
Can you again allow me? Can you again allow me a second? Let me throw some medicine.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Very well.
Okay.
I have stopped recording as well. Yes.
Okay.
We apologize for the interruption. Let's allow Prof to do some
medicine.
needful, and then we'll continue. We have all stopped recording, and then when he comes back, we continue recording.
Okay, sir.
I wasn't able to identify where the interruption is coming from. So we make sure that everyone joining the meeting is joining with a I think Boris. We are removing any name we cannot properly recognize. Right, anyone who wants to make a contribution apart from question can do so now before Prof rejoins us. Anybody who wants to make any comment?
Dan,
Yes.
please, what has happened to handshake across the Niger?
Do you want Prof to answer that question on me?
Please, you can also comment on it because it was a laudable initiative.
Yes, can you hear me?
That
Yes.
was somehow we didn't
Okay.
hear about.
You wanted me to tell you the moves Igbo are making to build the bridge
Okay.
between
Our
the
respected Prof
Midwest.
is back. Is Prof
Yes.
back?
Yes.
Okay. I asked my question,
Yes.
sir. Okay, sir. Now, I'm saying
Yes.
that
Yes.
I said, is there or what is the visible bridge Indigbos are building to connect South-South and Southwest? The background to this question is that from the analysis and from our perception, it is the North that appear to be coming up with the distrust to the Indigbo and not the Southern corridor. And I'll say that since democracy is a game of number, what is the effort that the Indigbo are making to build a bridge that will connect South-South and Southwest so that it can be used as a platform for presidency? Thank you, Prof.
Well, I had you. Let me tell you. It is our expectation, and I have said it in evaluating, it is our expectation that we will get the support of the North. We are not afraid of the North at all in terms of support. We think that the North will only be concerned about the quality of the person we are bringing. Just like everybody, we are also concerned about the quality that the North will bring or the West will bring when it reaches them. As for the bridges, visible bridges we're building, Igbo have an attitude towards the rest of Nigeria that it is a two-way process. I might as well turn the question the other way. What visible bridges are the Midwest and the other ones building towards Igbo for us to be good neighbors, which we are? When the second Niger bridge comes, there will be no difference between the Midwest, the riverine areas, and the Igbo. And we note that the Midwest declared neutrality. Those of us who are old enough to have participated in the war know that the Midwest was not interested in any war with the East. We know that. And when the book comes out, you will see that the East really did not invade Midwest, as is the popular narrative. The Midwest was trying, the East was trying to end the war quickly by moving into Lagos and stopping Gawan in Lagos. That was the agreement between the East and the Banjo, while we gave him our 101 division. Otherwise, we had enough commanders. We were not invading. So we know we have a good relationship. We don't want to spoil it. The Midwest also should know that we are friends with them. We don't need to show it. We are brothers with other Nigerians. And I can tell you that the North is not going to stand in the way. You've had them. You've had Balarabe Musa, who is the conscience of the North. You've had him. What makes you think that the North will be standing in the way of the Igbo man for president? I think what has happened was that the Igbo man this time controlled himself and didn't rush into it. You know that PDP was actually heading towards a Kwame for presidency in 1999. It was obvious. It was last minute that the argument came that because of June 12th, every other person should stop. The only person who objected was the late Abubakar Rimi. No other person objected. And that was why you found that when Ekweme lost in Jos, he made a statement. He didn't contest it. He said it's okay. And the next morning, Obasanjo went and offered him president of the Senate. So we don't expect this kind of rancor that, is it the South-South? The Igbo gave their son, Jonathan, bulk vote and didn't bother about it. The Igbo gave him bulk vote, didn't bother, no regrets about it. People are trying to say he gave us nothing. Did we go there to draw money from an ATM machine or contract? We gave him that because of good relationship and good neighborliness. And when we decided to give Atiku mass vote, which you saw we gave mass vote, is it then Atiku who would mobilize against him? Is it him who would mobilize? How many? There are many friends that the Igbo have in the North. So we are not expecting any that the North will say over their dead body that an Igbo shall be. So I think that in answering you, we don't really, we think that we have taken our relationship with the Midwest, both the Igbo speaking and non-Igbo, we take it for granted that there is no difference between
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much, sir.
I think that's it.
Okay, yes, we thank you very much. We're about to round up now. But let's take the last two questions together, and then after that, no more questions. And down, we take the two questions together. Then Prof will now use it, please, to give us his final speech. From Ife Sinachi Ifacho, please, are you ready now to unmute yourself? Briefly, quickly. And then Ifeanyi Maxwell also get ready. We'll take the two questions together and then conclude.
Yes, thank you so much. Prof.
Yes.
My question, you have answered part of my question because the person who spoke before the last person asked exactly the question I wanted to ask. But there is something that I want to say here that I want you to tell us, because we, if you ask me, most of the Igbos are not interested in Nigerian presidency, but there is a lot of mistrust between us and our brethren in the West, that even the North are saying that if the reasonable ones in the North are saying that even if they are going to zone the presidency, that it is supposed to be to the east, southeast. But to our greatest surprise, people from the West are smarting out saying that it is their turn, as if we don't belong to Nigeria. And example of what I'm saying is somebody like Tinubu and his cohorts. They want to take over from Buhari instead of aligning themselves with the Igbos and say, look, brothers, let us come together. And it is your turn to take this presidency, because no Igbo man has become president in Nigeria. Why is there so much misgivings or mistrust between us and the Yorubas? Thank you.
We thank you very much. Let's also take the last two questions together. Ifeanyi Maxwell, are you still there? Ifeanyi? Okay, I don't think he's still there now. All right, please, Prof, if you can still now take the last question. We have kept you here too long, more than we would want to. Just take the last question and then you give us your final closing remarks.
You haven't kept me for too long. I said thank you for inviting me. I think I've had the last person. It is not our brothers, the Yorubas. I told you that we have a good working relationship with the authority structures in Yoruba land. Many of us are also well known to Tinubu. Many of us also have associated with him politically. We think that as 2023 approaches, it will be good politicking, and the Igbo will do good politicking as they strive for the presidency to reach out to everybody. But the Igbo are not afraid. I think everybody will know from 1967 that the Igbo are not afraid as a people. When they made up their minds to do something, they will do something. If they contest it, like I told you, they'll contest it because it's a DNA test. It comes out and then it tells you that either you are the father or you are not the father. None of it frightens or phases the Igbo man. But what it will do is that when we strive for that presidency, we will know those who want us, those who like us, those who don't like us, those who are saying in their mouth that they like us, but in their hearts they dislike us. So we will know. But if you don't try it, you won't know. People will be saying, it would have been you. Like I told you, the argument is still raging. But the argument that is gaining upper ground is, what have you got to fear? When it was time to let two Yoruba people run in 99 because of June 12th, the Igbo had no problem allowing that. If Tinubu, a known diehard Nadeko, which happened to be Shikanoden, decides that he is going to be the person who will stop the Igbo presidency, we will know. We will see that. And we are not afraid of that. So, please, let your heart not be troubled at all. There are three things that Igbos have. Who is going to run for them? What is he going to achieve for Nigeria? How is it going to be done? The pathway for it. And if I will repeat again, if he is the Igbo that shows, for example, that after he has been there, the Igbo will tell you, I told you that the people you thought were the problem in this country are actually the solution. Don't you see now that you have had the solution? Don't you see what has done? Don't you see that now that this particular education thing, number of children out of school, whether they're from Yobe or from Borno, it doesn't matter. The Igbo man would rather talk the same language with anybody from any part of the country. That's why he's found any part of the country. So I think that don't have fear. There will be people who will approach Tinubu. They will approach him. And I, speaking personally, I don't think there was a time that Ndi Igbo in Lagos made up their minds. They were going to support Tinubu to be governor, no matter what was thrown at him. So if he now decides that these same people who sat by him at his worst hour are the people, we will record it for him. So there's no problem.
It's been a very enlightening engagement, Prof. We thank you very much. It's almost 2 hours now. We planned this to be a 1 hour discussion, but even my own questions have not been exhausted. But that will, I will hope that in the nearest future, we will have you again in our midst to explore some of the unanswered questions that the Nigerian children of my generation will still want those questions answered. Some of us have read those books, but it's also good to hear them from someone who was there and witnessed it all. So thank you very much. We are very, very happy to have you here. And we have been much.
Hello, Mr. Dan. Before you go, I would like to drop a few words, just a very little one.
Yes.
For our Prof. I hope you don't mind.
Yes.
Prof, actually, I would have also had a lot of questions because, but basically you've touched on most of the things that bothers our little minds. But the one area I would have loved to hear from you, but I'll wait for another opportunity because it's not on a federal level, rather on a state level, is the upcoming Anambra state governorship election. I know you played a very buoyant role during the last governorship election. I watched you speak on one occasion on one of the campaign trends. So when I have another opportunity, I would like to hear from you again because it's almost as good as said that the die is cast. Again, Nnewi indigenes are clamoring for governorship, just like the Igbos are clamoring for presidency in Nigeria. Some Nnewi people are saying that it is their time, that the Nnewi man has not been on that seat. So, like I said, I wouldn't, I think this is not the day for it, but anytime I have another opportunity, I want to hear you speak on that. Until then, thank you very much, sir, for coming.
When the time comes, I'll talk to you. But you know, I come from the Nnewi royal family. I come from Nnewi royal family. I'm grandson of President Nnewi. Nwosu. So don't worry when that time comes. But I'm a member of board of trustees of PDP. So I have ceased to be even in Nnewi and Anambra. I've ceased to be Nigeria board of trustees. I'm now board of trustees in Nigeria. I will speak to you then.
All right, sir. Well, I will appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We thank you very much, Prof. Another question we are seeing here in the chat room is someone, Otumba is asking, what have you got to say about the agitators who want the Yoruba nation tomorrow? But we will not take all these questions now. Our time is up. Hopefully, when next we have you around some of these questions.
It's the same as I say. You can't. I can say, but I don't think Otumba will understand it. But I'll say it. You translate it for him. That if the book, the bargain. You know, that just like we have IPOB, they have all those clamoring also for Duduwa. You understand? It just shows the disaffection in Nigeria and the imperative of restructuring and the urgency of restructuring. And that is something that should be done quickly.
Thank you. We thank you very much, Prof. This has been a very engaging 2 hours. I'm sure my editors will have no problem with looking for a headline for this report. We have had so many sound bites. Restructuring is a settled matter. The restructuring and okay, well, we call it a day. I don't know who is playing this song.